There's an organisation called Treasure Boxes giving goods to kids in need, and it's a great message this end of the year, the lead up to Christmas. Obviously, everyone's flat out and busy and it's stressful and all the rest. But with a lot of people struggling to make ends meet, probably more so than ever, given inflation is up and all the rest, people are trying to really make ends meet in terms of mortgages and electricity and everything, let alone Christmas. So there are basic essentials out of reach for many families who are under the threat of poverty, essentially, for some. Rikki Cooke is founder and CEO of Treasure Boxes. Let's put some meat on the bones of that. Hello, Rikki. How are you?
Good evening, Matt. How are you?
Good,
I'm well, thank you.
Tell me more about Treasure Boxes. So let's go back to the start. You founded this. What was the motivation?
Yeah, so I spent 8 years working in child protection at the ground level in emergency care. So kids that are living in trauma situations, abusive situations, neglectful environments are removed by the department and put into emergency accommodation, and care workers such as the work that I was doing look after them 24/7. So that was sort of my first entry into kids living in severe disadvantage, and I cared for kids from newborns right up to 18-year-olds with various levels of trauma, mental health issues, lots and lots of upset children, let's say.
Yeah. And I imagine at Christmas every child wants to wake up to get something.
Well, they do. You know, that's sort of the desire, but some kids would just like some food on the table or some nice warm clothes to wear or, God forbid, a clean bed to sleep in. Wow. So that would be amazing, but the families that we're supporting are living in cars. If they have a car, we've got lots of families living in tents at the moment, lots and lots of families living in shelters. So we're sort of at the pointy end of the stick. So the most vulnerable families in South Australia are the ones that get referred to us.
How many families live in tents? How many don't have a home?
Look, I couldn't give you that. I can tell you that there's about 6,500 people living homeless in South Australia at the moment, probably a bit more at the moment. It always gets a bit higher at this end of the year. But 31% of those are kids under 18 years old. So that's a lot of kids living homeless. So homelessness doesn't necessarily mean living in the parklands, but it can be they're just living at a no fixed address, or they're living in cars, or they're couch surfing. So it's pretty devastating when you think about adults dealing with that. But then let's throw some 3 and 4 and 5-year-old kids in the mix, and it's pretty heartbreaking.
Well, 30%'s around 1,800, so almost 2,000.
Yeah, we've got 1,000 of those under 12 years old as well. So, the stats are massive. So this time of year, we always see a rise. We've seen a trend for the last 5 years of about this point of this time of year, in November, beginning of December, our stats go through the roof. And at this point in time, the last couple of weeks, I've been speaking to other organisations such as Salvos and Catherine House and Anglicare, and they have seen unprecedented referrals coming through their doors. And it's all due to the cost of living. COVID crisis we still get this COVID hangover where families are stressed. They're super stressed. And then let's throw some mental health issues in there. Then let's throw some drug and alcohol abuse in there. Then families who just don't have the coping mechanisms because the stress levels are so high. Then we've got child protection happening. So it's just this vicious cycle at this time of year. It's not great.
So what do you need people to do?
Well, everybody intrinsically want to help families like this. So we sort of offer that vehicle to help, so you can donate items to us. So things that are childhood items such as cots, car seats, pushers are invaluable this time of year. We're almost depleted of our linen stock. So, everyone has a bursting linen cupboard of things they don't need. Pass them to us. So sheets, good quality sheets, quilts, pillows. Right now we're collecting for 360 remote Indigenous kids. So if you have means to purchase a small present up to about $20. We need to be able to provide presents for Indigenous kids this year as well. Volunteer with us. We've got a men's shed, so if you're handy on the tools, any time you can spare is fantastic. And, of course, monetary donations help us to do what we do really well, so that's always welcome.
All right. So I see this year you're doing something different, allowing all families to have direct access to your services for Christmas. That must put the strain on you.
Yeah, it is, but our mission is to support as many kids as we possibly can. So you're right, our general service is still that families would need to go through a caseworker in order to access our support. But what we recognise is sometimes there's barriers to that. So sometimes people feel shame that they can't provide for their kids or guilt. So they don't want to reach out and say, hey, I need some help. But this way, we've taken that barrier down to say, look, if you need help, just come straight to us. We'll give you toys for Christmas. We'll give you clothes so your children have clean clothes.
Yeah.
We'll give you some warm blankets. Just come, jump on our website, put the request in, and we'll help you out.
Okay. I know from your media release you've helped a family. This just kind of probably typifies what's going on. A family with 5 kids in the western suburbs whose rent has increased by $125 a week. So there's the parents obviously trying to keep the roof over everyone's head, and in the meantime there's no money left because it's all going on rent.
Absolutely, and it's heartbreaking to go $125. Well, we have a choice. We can pay our rent so we're not homeless. We can buy food for our family so they don't go hungry, or we can buy nappies or basic essentials for our kids. And it's almost always going to go to the rent, which means that there's just nothing left over. So unfortunately, it's our kids that are suffering right now. So yeah, it's a heartbreaking situation that's happening across the board. It's happening to me, it's happening to anyone who owns a house or is renting a property. We're all paying extra at the moment, and for families who just don't have any other choice, it's not great.
Right. So look, there are many charities out there like the Giving Trees. I forget which store that is, Big W or Kmart or whoever. Yeah.
Kmart, I think. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's a similar sort of thing in that you give the present and leave it under the tree and walk away, and a kid gets that, and that's great. But your service goes a lot more further, from what I understand from chatting with you now. So you're doing the linens, you're doing the bedding, you're doing everything really.
Yeah, well, we do sort of class it as the basic essentials. So presents are lovely, but, for a child who hasn't had access to a toothbrush or shampoo or soap for a few days, that's a luxury. That's a present in itself. Or, a clean nappy after 2 days of having the same nappy.
Wow.
That kind of stuff is what we're facing and what we're supporting with.
That's quite confronting, really, given that, you wouldn't expect things were that bad in Adelaide.
Well, it's sort of a bit of a stretch to the imagination, but a lot of our families don't have cars. They have to rely on public transport but for some that do, they don't have the money to put fuel in the car in the first instance anyway. So it's kind of pointless. So if they don't have fuel to put in the car and the car is needed to go grocery shopping, then everything stops.
Yeah.
The world stops for these families. So, there's lots of little things that sort of slip our minds, but the basic essentials is what we really need to address at the moment and make sure these kids have got everything they need. And the cot for a newborn baby is absolutely essential. I worked as a social worker for a couple of years, and the things that I saw walking into a family to do a bit of a how you going and seeing a baby in a box on the floor with a couple of blankets is the best that they could possibly do. It's pretty devastating out there, but we're doing what we can, and the community can help us do that.
And tell me, that wouldn't be classed as neglect, would it, in that situation where it's just the family don't have the resources?
Yeah, they don't. So, we work hand in hand with government organisations. So we work with Child Protection, we work with Human Services, and we're all in this together. So, if the problem is identified and we can help the family with access to the basic stuff and help them with a bit of a hand up and give them what they need to care for those children, hopefully that is enough to get them back on the straight and narrow. We don't want to, jump to the let's take the baby away, because that doesn't solve everything at all.
Not at all. No, that's right. But is it enough to get people back on the straight and narrow, given inflation is going up, the end to the rental crisis is nowhere on the horizon, frankly, is it? And you just can't see things getting better in the next 12 months at least. If anything, they'll get worse with electricity prices and everything else.
Yeah, someone else asked me that today and said, what do we do about this? And I said, well, give me $5 billion and we'll build another 1,000 houses and we'll fix it, But then, it's so complex, and, we can't keep pointing the finger at the government because they are doing everything they can. They have a finite resource of funding.
Yes, they do.
And it's not just like, just throw more money at that, because money can only go so far. So that's where community organisations like us work hand in hand with government, and we're all pulling together, and even community groups like the Rotaries and the Lions and the Kiwanis. We're all doing the best we can, and by doing that collectively, we can start chipping away and making an impact.
Mm-hmm. All right, Rikki, for people who want to get involved either as volunteers or to donate, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, just jump on our website, so treasureboxes.org.au. So the information about how to support at Christmas, if anyone listening is a family that's struggling. And a lot of these families have never reached out to support agencies. And it's funny, we've had about 32 referrals in the last couple of days directly from people. And the number one thing that every single one of them says is, I know there's people worse off than me, but I just thought I'd ask anyway because I'm struggling a bit. We want everyone to know that you're deserving and we want to help you, so please put a referral into us. So if there's any families out there that need a helping hand this Christmas, please reach out to us on our website.
Rikki, great work. It's fantastic you've done this. How long did you say Treasure Box is running?
We're kind of infantile in the charity space, only about 5 years.
5 years,
right. Yeah, but we've had about a 580% increase in the last couple of years, that's for sure. So just identifies that there's a huge gap and need in the community. So, yeah, it's great. We're getting huge support from the people around us, so we're pretty lucky about that.
That's good. All right, Rikki, look, thank you for that. Treasureboxes.org.au, that's where to go and do what you can. So looking for volunteers as well, as you said, a men's shed, so blokes with skills, tools, etc. can help out, and other people to lend a hand wherever else. But I guess it's cash and items you're after, like you say, cots and everything else.
Yeah, everyone has different capacities, so in whatever way you can support us, we're always appreciative. Thank you.
Good on you. Thank you, Rikki, for your time.
No worries. Have a good night.
You too. Rikki Cooke, founder and CEO, Treasure Boxes, and that email again, or the website, treasureboxes.org.au, helping families with poverty at the moment. And it's tough. Who knew it was that bad? 2,000 kids homeless with their parents, who are either in cars, in tents, couch surfing, whatever it might be. But unreal.
5